Members of City Council sound off about electronic monitoring issues and the high number of outstanding warrants in Cook County. Top officials explain what's going on. Plus, a bill to expand youth voter registration in Illinois makes it to Governor Pritzker's desk. Let's get to the point.
From Chicago's very own, with WGN political editor Tahman Bradley, this is The Point.
Good evening. Records show 72,000 people have an active arrest warrant in Cook County, half criminal, and about 7,500 tied to domestic violence cases. The issue of the county's criminal warrant backlog gained renewed attention after the murder of Chicago police officer John Bartholomew, allegedly at the hands of a man with an active warrant. Today at a meeting of City Council's Public Safety Committee, various stakeholders weighed in on the warrant backlog and issues concerning electronic monitoring. Alderwoman Silvana Tabares called for today's special meeting, and Alderwoman Tabares, welcome to The Point.
Yes, hi, thank you for having me on your show.
All right, thank you for being here. Did you hear an explanation that you wanted as to why there are more than 70,000 outstanding warrants active in Cook County?
Well, yes, we called this hearing because we wanted to have full transparency on the numbers and the data that is being compiled at the Cook County office. They are not subject to FOIA.
The chief assistant...
And so, unfortunately...
No, please finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, and unfortunately, we invited the chief judge and the sheriff's office, and they declined to show up and send a representative.
And how disappointed were you that the chief judge and sheriff were not at today's meeting?
It's disappointing because the numbers are starting. We have 72,000 warrants. Half of them are criminal. 7,500 of those are for domestic cases. You had a case in Schaumburg where the user killed his victim, and he had an outstanding warrant that took place a month ago. You have 4 first responders in the past year who have been killed in the line of duty by defendants with criminal warrants. That is unacceptable. That raises a lot of questions. What is going on with our Cook County court system? Residents deserve transparency. They deserve to know how many active warrants they are, how are we serving them, what orders of protection are being served.
A chief assistant to Cook County State's Attorney Eileen O'Neill Burke talked about there's no way for law enforcement to know when an electronic monitoring bracelet is taken off or when the batteries die. What was your reaction to that?
Well, we have 4,373 people on the electronic monitoring program. And just recently on WGN with Ben Bradley, Chief Judge said that 8% are AWOL. What does that mean? These are people that are walking freely in our neighborhood. These are people that are coming in. The police are encountering these individuals. Our firefighters are encountering individuals, and they're getting encountered with these people. And so we need public safety for our first responders. We need to be looking at this data. This data is not being FOIA. This is not being FOIA. There's no transparency, and that's what we need. And what we're going to be doing after the city council hearing is that we're going to be taking legislative action. As a former state representative, who worked down in Springfield, it's time to legislate this. It's time to bring the Cook County court system into FOIA compliance.
You've talked a lot about CPD being pulled into making arrests when these warrants are outstanding. What sort of relief do you want for officers? How can the city help?
Well, and today I really want to thank the Chicago Police Department who did attend the hearing, as well as State's Attorney O'Neill Burke's office. She sent 2 representatives on her behalf to the hearing, and also the public defender. I think what's very interesting that the public needs to know is that the number 1 arrest for Chicago Police Department are warrants. They take hours for officers off the job. When they take an arrest for a person or warrant, they are off the beat on responding other 911 calls in their community because they are spending hours on the job trying to address a person with the warrant that they arrested. This is a concern of budget. This is where the Chicago Police Department are arresting people with warrants that the Cook County Sheriff are not addressing.
I got less than a minute left, but the public defender who you mentioned was there, Sharon Mitchell, called for greater investment in the notification system and some resources to help people make their court dates. Is that something you would support?
What I support is that we need to be updating the leads database system with short form notifications. My understanding after this hearing is that when a Chicago police officer does a short form notification, that the sheriff's office is not updating it on a timely manner. There is no timeline or 48 hours or 72 hours when the sheriff department is updating the leads. What does that mean? That our police department are confronting people with outstanding orders of protection, that the sheriff's office is not serving these individuals, and our police officers are encountering these individuals when they do a traffic stop. They do a short form notification and it's not being updated in the leads.
All right, Alderwoman Silvana Tabares, thank you so much for your time tonight. Appreciate it. We're back in 60 seconds. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the Chicago Bears aren't giving up on Illinois just yet. The team publicly declared their intention to advance stadium plans in Hammond, Indiana last week. But the governor tells reporters he's gotten calls from Bears leadership since then. He's blaming lawmakers' lack of action on the team's mixed messages.
From the beginning, of course, there were some fumbles that occurred by the Bears, beginning with a press conference with the mayor of Chicago talking about a multi-billion-dollar stadium that they wanted to have built with taxpayer dollars. It was only later that they made clear, or we thought they made clear, they wanted to be in Arlington Heights, and then late April, it turns out they're talking to the mayor of the city of Chicago. So, look, I think all of that has to be worked out by the Bears. Decide what they want, make sure that we know it, and then we're going to work diligently to see if we can't get something done that will work for them.
The governor says he's open to calling a special session, but the legislature will have to agree on a proposal first. There was a lot of attention on the Bears and a state budget in the final days of the legislative session, but lawmakers also passed hundreds of bills on other topics. One of them aims to honor Reverend Jesse Jackson's legacy by expanding voter registration to high schools. Democratic State Representative Kimberly Du Buclet is here to talk about it. Welcome to The Point.
Hi, I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Young people can register to vote at the DMV like everyone else. People as young as 16, of course, can drive. So why create a program in high schools?
So, yes, currently young people can vote at the DMV, but actually creating a program where they can register at high school, where they're most likely to be every day, makes it easier for them and gives them much easier access. And also, I have to mention, it was a dream of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., and I'm going to quote if you don't mind. Senior high school graduation must be seen as a passage of rights into adulthood. On that graduation day or night, you must put a diploma in one hand, symbolizing knowledge and wisdom, and put a voter registration card in the other hand, symbolizing power and responsibility. So allowing the students to get their voter registration card in school makes it much easier for them to access the system, and it also fulfills the dream of Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr. Sr.
And Reverend Jackson was so important in getting a lot of people registered to vote and the impact that that had on Democratic politics across the country. I'm wondering if he knew about this legislation before he passed.
I think he did. My contacts over at Push told me that they were in constant communication with him. He was very excited about the progress that it was making. We tried to get the bill passed last May. It was part of an omnibus elections bill, which means that it was part of a larger elections bill. But for whatever reason, that bill did not pass last May. So I went to the speaker and asked if I could pull that bill out of the omnibus bill and make it its own standalone bill. So we've been working on this bill for quite a while.
This bill No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask you, this bill calls for nonpartisan voter registration. What would stop, though, a high school from having a partisan registration if it wanted?
Well, that's not going to happen. It's absolutely nonpartisan. We have nonpartisan voter registration groups that are going to be out in these different high schools assisting the schools with the voter registration process. So that should absolutely not be an issue. This is about getting people involved, whether you're Black, white, Democrat, Republican, Green Party, whatever your affiliation. This is just about more access for students.
Can high schools opt out if they want to?
Well, it's not mandated. So if they decide not to do it, there's no penalty.
How worried are you, though, about the administrative burden that this might potentially place on high schools? There's no money associated with them developing a voter registration program, is there?
No, there's no money involved. And again, we have many volunteer voter registration organizations that are standing by and willing to assist different high schools across the state with this program. So if the school would allow, these organizations could come in and do everything for them, and the school wouldn't have to do anything.
I've got less than a minute left. You know, research continues to show that young people, whether they're registered to vote or not, still don't vote. What do you do about that?
Well, I think part of the issue is getting students involved early, which is what this program focuses on. I believe if we get our students and our young people involved at an earlier age, it creates less obstacles. So when one graduates, they want to my polling place, when is the election? All these questions are difficult to get the answer to if you're not familiar and if you don't have the time or energy to go dig. Getting someone registered to vote at an early age gets them involved in the process earlier and gets them on our voter rolls, and so they'll be allowed to get mailed information on voter registration data, where their polling place is, when the election is, all that crucial information needed to get people out to the polls.
State Rep Kimberly Du Buclet, good talking with you. Appreciate it.
Nice to talk to you too. Thank you.
Tonight, a tip of the hat to former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and pop star Katy Perry. The couple are now red carpet official, confirmed by lots of PDA at the Tribeca Festival. And that is The Point. I'm Tahman Bradley. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.